Hello everybody and welcome back to the Self Love series. Today I'm super excited about this episode because it is the first time that we are doing one like this, and that is a Self Love session. I thought to do this because I thought it was a perfect way to get you as viewers involved in the episodes and cater towards your specific situations in submitting what you're going through. For us to read live on an episode and give our feedback with whoever our guest is. So that's what we're doing today. Again, this is the first self-love session, and the guest that we have today I'm really excited about because it is a person that has given me personally some of the best advice in my life, especially when it comes to relationships, which is what this self-love session is focused on, and that is my mom. So we will be talking to her today, going over a few different emails that we've received, and talking things such as having a partner that has different love languages and how to compromise with that, and then also toxic in-laws and interracial relationships. So I hope you guys find something that is helpful for you in this episode, and we will be doing these continuously throughout the season. So if you have something that's come to mind that you want answers or advice on, you can email me. If you follow my Instagram at cassidi.tatafu, you can click email and submit your submission. Title it Self Love Session, and I just ask that you try to keep it brief with enough details of what the situation is, but also include your age, because the situation and advice can be different depending on your age, and we will air that in an upcoming episode. Just let us know if you want to remain anonymous. So let's get started into this episode with me and my mom. Okay, so we are going to get started for our very first self-love session with my mom. And so I'm going to read the first email that we have, and then my mom will give her advice and we'll go from there. I grew up with parents that are very expressive on how much they love us. So we constantly got hugs and kisses from my parents, and we were very expressive and showed that love all the time. And that's how I grew up, and that transferred over to me as a parent to my children, and as a spouse. So I'm very expressive and constantly tell my kids I love them, and they do the same. My spouse grew up in a very traditional Mexican family, where the mother stays home and the dad works 12 or more hours a day. She came from a home not expressive at all. She doesn't even know the last time her parents told her they love her. Not because they don't, just because they really are a closed-in family with their feelings. So that's how she was raised, and also that transferred over to her personality as a parent and a spouse. She's not as expressive with our kids or to me about her feelings. So my question, or where I was hoping you could give me some feedback, is should she be adjusting to how I am? Should she change a little, or is it fine on how everything is? I honestly do wish she was more expressive, but I do also understand the way you're raised has a lot to do with it, and sometimes that's something that won't change.
Well, if you hadn't said Mexican, I would think Dad wrote that. But since I'm not Mexican and he's not Mexican, I know it's not. But that's exactly how I grew up. Like, we were not affectionate in the least little bit. Like, we cut each other down, made jokes, made fun of each other, pointed out all of our flaws to each other. So it was always like making fun of each other. We never like said, I love you. Like, it feels so foreign. Even to this day, like, I can't say that to my dad. If he says, I'm like, okay, bye. But I have worked on it with my kids. When they were younger, it was easier for me. And I always promised myself that I'm going to be better at that. So I have worked on it, and I'm better with my kids and my husband, but I'm not great. My husband's definitely more affectionate than I am. But it's just hard for, especially I feel for both of you, because I understand where she's coming from, because that's how I grew up. And so it's not natural. It doesn't come easy. It's hard to even, it seems so stupid, but it's so hard to even come out of your mouth, even though you think it, but it's just hard. And so it is something that bothered Dad as well. When we first started going out, he would say it, and I'd be like, that, okay, bye. And I wouldn't say it. And I had to really work at it. And then I thought, when I have kids, I'm going to be better at that. And I was when they were younger. As they've gotten older, I'm do it sometimes, but not all the time. And I know sometimes you guys give me a hard time about it, but it is something that it's constantly something that I have to work at. Yeah. So I think both of you, I definitely think that you should share your feelings with your spouse and tell them that it hurts you or it bothers you, and that you really want to work at it. But you also need to know that don't fight about it. It's not her fault. I mean, it is something that she can work on, but it's also something like not necessary to be so affectionate. I mean, I know you like it, but it's not necessary. Like, I see some people that are overboard affectionate. Like, I've seen them kiss on the lips and stuff, which is fine for some people. That would be so weird to me. I could never imagine that happening. But I think it's cool when I see families that are affectionate. It's just not natural for me. But I definitely don't think you should let it come between you. Yeah. But you work together and keep being loving and affectionate, and it will just keep rubbing off on her. And just try to have your kids be that affectionate with her as well. And it'll take time, but it'll keep getting easier for her if she just sees it and doesn't feel pressure from you about it, because it is something that's hard to do when you don't grow up that way.
Yeah. But I think it is important. It makes the difference, like you said, to communicate it.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I was young, I would always see like people with a girl with their dad, or and they would be like holding hands or like hugging or something, and that would be so weird for me. But I would always think that would be cool to have a relationship like that, but that's just not how we were growing up. So I definitely feel like I was a lot more loving to my kids and tried not to be like so much like that. But as you know, I'm still working at it.
Yeah, but I think everyone does it differently. And I think that's kind of like the love languages, like just recognizing what your spouse's is, mm-hmm. and kind of trying to compromise and meeting them halfway. Yeah. You can't expect your specific like love language to be natural for them, but at least express it to them what yours is, so that they can try to do it more. But then same goes like vice versa, because with yours, I know yours isn't.
Mine is doing things.
Physical touch or like words of affirmation necessarily, but yours is definitely quality time and acts of service. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like, for me, I think so too. I'm less affectionate than like Muka is and what his family's used to. But I feel like in a different way, you taught me a lot of the things that I know, like in my relationships and how I show up as a person in relationships. I learned from you, and that is just when you like love someone, you show up and you're there for them. And also just like being thoughtful in the quality time that you spend together, making the most of it. So when it comes to like me as a sister or as a friend or a wife, like I learned that from you, even though yours is an affection, like it's those other ways of quality time and doing things for people when you care about someone, being thoughtful in those ways. So I think for this person, also it can help them beyond just expressing it, I think also thinking of the things that maybe they do,
Mm-hmm.
and that's their way to show the love, so
Yeah.
that you're not thinking like what you're lacking, but see, okay, but they do this, that, and the other. To
Yeah.
where I think when you know kind of what your spouse, how they feel, and what you're doing that affects them, they'll try to work on it. Again, it's
Yeah.
not easy.
Yeah, like for example, I try to do things a lot for everyone at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't tell them I love them. See you guys, I love you, have a good day, or kiss
Right.
them or anything. But I'll help them with their laundry, or I'll help them with things cleaning, or little things that I think of helping them, and that's my way of showing. And sometimes, like, instead of being affection, like sometimes Dad will get mad at me and say, stop doing so many things and just sit down and relax. But that's why my way of, that's how I
Right.
show people that I care about them,
Mm-hmm.
is trying to help and do things for him. Whereas he could just sit there all evening, but he'll be like, love you,
Right.
and that might be this couple where he or she's great at saying, I love you and hug and kiss, but then they sit back and the wife is probably making food or doing this or that or whatever her way of showing love is. So it is, everyone has different ways of showing their love, and it's not always easy trying to change that.
Right.
But I think that there's definitely, when you talk and you just share your concerns with each other, then it's a lot easier for somebody to try and change it a little bit. And it could go on both parts. That person could also try to do more physically instead of just worrying about the hugs and kisses, and try to do things more like her way as well. So it's like more of a compromise. You're working together.
Right. Awesome. Okay. I think we're good on that one. To go to the next one. You good for the next one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the next one is titled Toxic In-Laws. It says, my husband and I are both Tongan. We both value family above all else. However, my in-laws have been disrespectful since the day we started dating, so we do not have a relationship with them. With that being said, we have attempted to maintain at least a respectful relationship with them, yet they constantly try to convince my husband I am no good for him, or allow their feelings for me to affect the way they both treat and speak of our son. Anyway, a relationship with them caused too many arguments within our marriage to where my husband truly had to choose between his mother and sister or myself and our son. He finally seen the light and chose me, of course. They just don't respect the boundaries we try to set in place. In the Tongan community, so many say you should always choose your mother first. Within the Mormon community, many say it's definitely your wife you should cling to. I want to know what your opinion of such a situation would be. After having tried everything to maintain a relationship with my husband's mother, is it wrong to have asked him to choose?
Well, I personally think that he shouldn't have to choose. It should automatically be the wife. Like, I know you love your mom. Like, I know everybody loves their parents and their siblings, but when you get married, I mean, it says in the scriptures that you become one. It doesn't say you and your mom become one, or you and your dad and mom become one. It says you and your spouse become one. That's when you join together. You decide you want to be together, make a family, whatever. You two always put each other first. Doesn't mean you stop loving your family, of course. But if your family truly loves you or your spouse as their child, then they should honor that, and they should love you enough to leave you alone. That's selfish and wrong of the parents. I'm a parent, so that would be selfish and wrong of me to get involved in my children's marriage like that. Like, and especially to say negative things about the husband or wife. That's so mean, first of all. And if you think you're a good person and you're saying negative things about your son-in-law or your daughter-in-law, like, that's just wrong. That's not a good person. You want the best, and this is who your child chose and loved, so you should love them too. If you really love your child, you should love them too. And to me, any parent that doesn't do that is selfish. They're only thinking of themselves, and they need to really self-reflect and see that what they're doing is wrong. And to even project that onto the grandchild is just wrong. It's horrible. And I feel bad for your spouse because it's his parents, and it's hard to probably break away from that relationship. But I mean, I still think the commandment is to honor your father and mother, which you can still do. You always be respectful, you still be loving and kind, but I don't believe you have to project yourself to toxic relationships. If they really love him and they want to have a relationship with him, then they'll start to love you and your son just as much. And they'll learn how to build a relationship. And sometimes that means breaking up the family and having to stay away in order to teach them a lesson. We as parents, grandparents, whatever we are, you never stop learning lessons. And maybe that's a lesson that they have to learn. But I was fortunate enough to have amazing in-laws. Like, my mother-in-law was like a second mom to my kids. So she was always so loving and kind. And I mean, I would have done anything for her. And I can't imagine, even with I only have son-in-laws right now, but I usually always take their side rather than my daughter's side, because I don't know, like, I just don't think that that's right. Like, you want them to feel a part of your family, and if you really love your child, you're going to love them the same and make them all feel like we're all just one big happy family.
Okay, Mom, so with that being said, what does it look like to create those boundaries when you have toxic family relationships? How do you still love them, but distance yourself, like love them from a distance? What does that look like?
Well, I do think, first of all, you need to have a straight up conversation with them. Like, maybe not the wife, but the son has to, with his parents, and say, look, you know what, if you want to have a relationship and be a part of my life, then you need to love my daughter and love my wife, and love my child. Even if you don't love them, but you still respect them, or we're not going to be a part of your life. Like, we'll still come to family things, I'll still smile, we'll say hi, and that will be the extent of it, because I'm not going to put them in an uncomfortable position where they feel like you think lower of them, like they don't deserve me. Like, I chose that person. It's my choice, not your choice. And if you really love me, then you'll respect my decision. And if you don't, that's fine. Let me know right now, and we'll just stay away if that's what you want. But you're not going to sway me to start thinking like you. I'm not going to feel like that way. If anything, it's going to tear us apart. So if you want a relationship with me, then you will respect my wishes, and you'll show respect to my wife and my child, and eventually, hopefully, love them like I do. And if not, it makes me really sad, but we won't be a big part of your life. Yeah. And then that's on them. And I know it's hard. I know it will be really hard, but you have to be straight up with them. And especially, I know because of being married to a Polynesian, like, a lot of the older Polynesians are set in their ways, and a lot of them are good people, but they are prideful and stubborn, and sometimes it takes something big to get through to them, like, I would think that if a mother heard her child say that, that they would want to come. It might not happen right away, but I would think and hope that they would come to their senses and change their way of thinking and let go of their pride, because that's what it is pride and stubbornness that you didn't get your way. And we need to stop thinking that everything's supposed to be our way. I know as a parent, sometimes you wish you could pick the person that your child picks, or the road that they're going down in life, but we can't. And that was never supposed to be our place. We have to teach them, we have to let them go, and hope that they make the right choices for their own life.
Yeah. Easier said than done, but
Yes.
it's what you have to do. Otherwise, it ends up like this.
Yeah.
When you hold
Yeah.
on to your pride.
Which is sad, and that's not a way a family should be. It should be a happy time to be
You
together.
have to trust that how you raise them as a parent is going to be good enough that who they chose, whether you fully know them or not, that they understand the values and things that you brought them up to hold as important, and that's reflected in who they chose.
Yeah.
But you're never going to know that if you don't give them a chance.
Right.
I feel like even if your child finds somebody that comes from a different walk of life, if no matter what, if you get to know that person and your like kid really loves them, it's hard to not like love people and understand where they come from due to their different upbringing. I just feel like it's hard to not love them and grow a relationship when you put in that effort.
Yeah.
But you have
Definitely.
to, but it all starts with letting go of pride.
Yeah.
So, I was going to ask you, so what you said kind of just like with hers justifies she's right in them being where they are now, but what would your advice be for her continuing on? Because it sounds like kind of they're a little estranged and not in good terms with his family. So as the wife of having that go on with your in-laws, what do you think she can do or continue doing?
One thing that I definitely think she should do is never put down his parents, because no matter what they do, they're still his parents, and he loves them, and they raised him, and he's always going to love them till the day he dies. So I wouldn't put him down, and I would love him, and I would do everything in my power to try to make it a good thing, if they're willing to try. But if they're not, I'd still be respectful. I would still smile when I see him. I would still be pleasant, but I wouldn't subject myself or my child to them if they're disrespectful or hurtful to me or my child. I wouldn't. And I would just tell my husband, I love you, and, I know that they're your parents and everything, but I'm not going to be mistreated or disrespected because I deserve better than that. And I mean, he's going to see that you're being the better person, and he's going to know that it's not right, but it's still, when you say things, mean things about them, it still cuts him deeply, and it still hurts him. Like, we all know that. Yeah, we all know that, even with our own families, like, or with our own spouses or boyfriends or girlfriends. Like, when we say mean things to them, we think it's okay. But if someone else says something about them, we immediately get on defense and want to defend them. And that's even stronger with parents. So, yes, it's not right, but don't talk bad about them, or don't call him names or hurtful things to him, because that's not going to help the problem.
Yeah, that's definitely advice that you've always taught us and told us that I have always valued, because I think it's good advice, and I don't think it's common that advice is given from parents to kids. Like, a lot of friends or people that I've come across, when we get into like venting conversations, or they open up about these kinds of situations, they weren't ever told those types of things to like not express their negative feelings to their spouse about their in-laws or whatever, and it definitely, I feel like, just worsens the situation and doesn't help.
Well, it does. You're adding fuel to the fire.
Have that in your mind that you feel that way about them, so then it makes them uncomfortable because they want you to be good with their family, they want their family to be good with you. So I love that advice. And what would you say if this situation was different, and say the toxic relationship is just between the in-laws and the wife, but they have kids or a kid, and even though they hate the spouse and there's drama there, but they love the kids and want to see the kids, but then the mom feels some type of way because they don't like her, so she doesn't want her kids around them, because why would she have her kids go around people that don't like the mom?
Well, if they're not being disrespectful to the mom, they're not talking bad about the mom to the child or around the child, then I definitely think the mom needs to swallow her pride and still let him, because you should want your kid to be loved by everyone. And if they really love your kid and they want your kid to be around, then that's great. And maybe that's what's going to change their heart. But if you keep them away because you're like, no, they don't like me, they're not going to see my kid, you're being selfish. You're thinking of your own hurt feelings and you're not thinking of what's best for the kid. Any kid is going to do better in life when they feel loved by everyone. Yeah. We know that for a fact in our own family circumstances. A kid needs to feel loved by everyone. Put your own differences aside and just love the child. And think of what's best for the child. Don't think of your own feelings. And you know what? When they love the child, and they are going to soften their heart towards you. They might not love you, but they're going to soften their heart a little. And, you know, that's their problem if they don't like you. I mean, that's what I've always thought in life is somebody doesn't like me, they must have something wrong with them because I'm pretty likable. I am easygoing, and if they don't like me, then they have some kind of problem.
Right, it's the problem isn't you.
Yeah,
it's them. And so
yeah, and maybe you make them feel insecure about themselves, or maybe you make them feel threatened in some way. I don't know, but you should never take it so personal. Like whatever they're saying is right. You should just be like, who cares? Like, I'm going to be happy and I'm going to enjoy myself no matter who I'm around. And if they don't like me, then screw them. That's my philosophy. Yeah, it's their loss to not have me a part of their life.
Yeah. So one that I thought of that maybe you could just share really quick is your advice for interracial couples. I mean, specifically because yours is marrying into a Tongan family. And so especially for like young adults, people like that are dating and they may be in the situation where it's like whichever side it is, but it's not an easy thing. And sometimes I think people either aren't aware of it and so they go into it blindly, like not knowing that it is trickier because there's different cultures. But anyways, what would your advice be to people when it comes to how to make that work?
One thing that I've learned that makes life a whole lot easier is to let loose a little. Like, don't be so uptight and don't be so worried if things are different from how you grew up or how your family was. Like, learn to adapt to things. And I feel like there was it's so many different things that were different with me going into the relationship with Dad. But one thing that I noticed just in our differences is like how he would always want to be doing everything for his family, and we're always constantly giving. And sometimes it was okay, like it was fine to me, but then there's sometimes that I totally know it was taken advantage of. And that's where I would like draw the line and we'd have a fight about it, because it's like, you know what? It can't be always give. And then, you know, people just totally taking advantage of it. Like, that's just not right. And it's just not okay. I totally agree with helping people, but also I agree in letting people help themselves too, not enabling them to keep living the same way and not do anything. So I definitely think that he's learned things from me and I've learned things from him. I've learned how to have a more loving heart, even though that's hard to believe for some people. But he's like so loving. Like, his whole family is so loving. Like, they just always think the best, and he always thinks the best. And sometimes he's like, man, I didn't even think of that. Like, you have such a bad mind. Like, why would you think of that? But it's like, because I'm a realist and I know what's going on. But there's so many good things that you can learn from each other. And I think if you can take those things instead of being critical and just being like, no, I don't like that, it's not going to happen. Yeah. Or he's going to have his way, I think when you learn to adapt to each other, and and just let loose and not be so worried about how things are. And I mean, really, it's a skin color and it's a different culture, but it's like we all want the same thing. We all want to be loved. We all want to have a strong family. We all want to be close. I mean, that's what we should be wanting anyways. And I just think if we're all the same, it's boring. Like, it's fun to have different beliefs and different backgrounds and different culture. Like mine was pretty boring, and I loved the whole Polynesian thing, how there's always food and there's, so much laughter and happiness and family things all the time. Like I love that because we didn't. We had fun things that we would do, like that I always loved, like always being together and being up in the mountains and doing outdoor things and things in our yard, like always outdoor things. And we were close. Like my mom always kept us together, but it's still a lot different from what the Polynesian culture is. But I definitely think that there's great things that you can learn from each other. And if you put your own selfish feelings aside and just try to learn from each other and embrace them and enjoy them and find the good things out of them. There's not always everything good. There are some things that are ridiculous and annoying, but that's where you can say, okay, this isn't okay, and this is why.
Right. And I mean, I'm sure the Polynesians or whatever other race it is, I'm sure they have the same feelings about Caucasian white white things that they think are ridiculous. So yeah, I think just communicating, and I think even if you aren't married, communicating before you're married so it's not like a huge shock and surprise. Like going over those differences of customs and traditions so that you're aware, and go over things that you agree with or disagree with. And that's important.
Yeah, and I think really you have to have a sense of humor and not take things so serious. Like, I mean, luckily Dad has a great sense of humor, and I'll be so serious, and I'll take things so serious sometimes, and then he'll put me in my place and be like, it's that German blood, like you need to stop being like that, and he'll make fun of me because sometimes I'll get too uptight or stressed or worry about things. And so those kind of things, it helps me think like, he's right, I need to stop being so serious and so uptight and just be more laid back like he is, and then I won't be so stressed all the time. But I mean, I know one thing that made it easier is we came from both the same religious background, and I think that's what helped us the most, is that we may have came from different cultures, different ethnicities and stuff, but we had the same faith, which helped a lot because I mean, we went through so many hard times, and just our belief in God and the things that we wanted together as with our family and everything was the same. And so I think that's what helped the most, is that.
Awesome. So Mom, why do you think self-love is important when it comes to relationships?
I think self-love is important because if you don't love yourself, how does anyone else love you? I mean, there's times that I've gotten down on myself and I've thought like, oh my gosh, I've got a zit, or I look fat, or whatever it is that I think about myself. But even though I feel those things, I always know that I'm of great worth. And anyone who and I've always felt like this, even though like I didn't have money, I didn't grow up with anything great, it's not like I was like the best looking girl in town or anything, but I always felt like I might have these things, but I'm gonna always put myself like that I deserve the best, and I'm not gonna settle for less. If I don't have somebody who's gonna love me and treat me good, and I expect that from not only from my spouse but from everyone. If they're not going to treat me good and treat me respectful, then they don't deserve to be a part of my life. And I just feel like if you don't love yourself, regardless of your flaws, but you just know your value, you know your worth, and you know that, you know what, anyone's lucky to have me a part of their life. And in return, I mean, I try to really be that. I try to make a difference in other people's lives. I try to do things for others always, whether it's at work or at home or at church. I always feel like I'm always trying to do things for others, to know that, to let them know that I care, and to let God know that I'm trying to make a difference in other people's lives. And I think that anyone who doesn't feel that way about me, then they don't need to be a part of my life.
Yeah.
And I think that every person, no matter who you are, you should have that same feeling about yourself, because if you do, others are going to feel that, and that's going to attract them to you. I have lifelong friends. I have so many people in my life that I love and that I feel close to. I don't tell them that, but I do. I show them through my actions, and I know that I mean a lot to them also. And there's some people that, you know, have just kind of faded out of my life. And I know that those people weren't really people who really cared about me, and that's okay. I don't wish them anything bad or anything, but I'm not going to settle for anything less than I feel like I deserve, because I know my worth, and I know that I'm a good person, and I know I'm not perfect, but I continually try to be the best that I could be. And that's all that we can expect from ourselves. And I think that's all that God expects from us, is to be the best that we can be, and try to be better than we were yesterday, and continually try to be better each day, and just serve others.
Period, Chrissy. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Love it. And thank you so much, Mom, for being a part of this self-love session. Thank you guys for watching. And if you are already, subscribe, follow, and also don't forget that you can submit emails or questions that you want for advice for upcoming episodes by emailing me on my Instagram. I have an email button on my profile, and we will answer your question in upcoming sessions. Thanks for watching. Awesome.